What's going on, traders? Welcome back to another video here. Today, I'm going to walk you through some of the trades I took today. Have some time on my hands. Figured I'd go through the trades that I took today. Maybe help you guys kind of learn a bit along the way. Today, we're sitting up just over $8,000 in trading profits. So really good day. Debating sticking around for power hour. Maybe turn that into 10,000 on the day. We'll see. So here we go. Let me pop this up. Get some things going here. So here you go. This is the P&L down here. $8,047 on the day. Not red. Haven't lost money on one ticker that I traded today. So every single stock that I did trade, I ended up green on those tickers. Had a few small losers in there, but all around every single stock that I traded today, I finished out green on. So that was really impressive on my part. So pretty happy about that. So let's kind of walk through them. So we traded ABL. Okay, cool. So let's walk through a couple of these trades. There's quite a few of them, so we'll walk through them all. We'll go through kind of IQ first. We'll talk about this stock right here. This is kind of my, this was the bread and butter for the day that really kind of put me up. So earlier in the day, I did not trade IQ. I missed all the short positions here. So throughout the day, I did not short IQ. Earlier in the day, I missed the opportunity to short this run down. So knowing that it was a little overextended, instead of trying to short it, what I did is I just waited for it to bottom out here, waited for it to get overextended and oversold to the downside. And when that happened, I myself, some of our trading members, we all took the long here at the bottom. I believe I hopped in, I want to say it was either with 2,500 shares or 3,500 shares. I honestly can't remember, to be completely honest. So either way, we hopped in long down here on this green candle, not right at the bottom. We probably got in about midway up on the candle. We got in long, and then we sold out on the tap of the 9 moving average. As soon as we kind of popped up and got close to the 9 moving average, we sold out. So we scalped that trade up just about $1 a share. So that was the first trade we took. So why did we take the trade? Well, the stock was being oversold way down. So it was definitely due to squeeze. All the short sellers were going to squeeze out at some point. So we entered here long, sold out towards the 9 moving average. All right. Then what we did is we waited to re-long it. We figured most of the time when you see stocks drop like this, they're going to pop up and then they're going to retest the previous low. Right. So that's again what you'll usually see. You'll see the stock drop, curl around like this. They'll try and break down this previous low area, right? And if they fail to break down, they're going to re-squeeze. Why? Because when they go back over like this, a bunch of new people add in short right there. That's actually a really bad explanation. Let me take a step back. Let me do it this way. Everybody adds in short right here for a retest of the low. And if it does not break down, all those new short sellers that pile in right here, they get squeezed out. So our next trade was another long bias trade where we entered long on this green candle and then we sold out on that green candle. So we made a move here. We played the higher low setup. So again, myself included, and a lot of our trading members in our private group took this one long on the higher low bounce here up to the high right here. Sure, there was a little bit of a move here that we missed, but that's okay. It is what it is. So what we ended up doing here was taking the higher low setup long. I want to say I took this with like 2,500 shares. So got in here at the low, sold up here at the high on that move. And that one netted me, I think, like the first trade from down here to up here was about $900. And then this trade from here to here, I think I may have sized up. That one I netted about $1,400 on that trade altogether. And of course, and I did sell profits on the way up as the stock was going up. I was taking some shares out. And here is, you can see, not time and shares, but the active trader window. I've netted $3,323 alone on the stock IQ today. Now, I also shorted it once here. I will talk about this short position. I did short IQ here later in the day on the breakdown of the 50 moving average. All right. So, for the longest time, IQ was basically just throughout this whole period, IQ was consolidating. So at this point, it was trying to pick a direction, high or low, higher, low, higher, low, higher, low. And then eventually it picked the downside. And as you can see here, it was starting to trend down. And you can see it kind of got squeezed into this little pattern, this little pennant. And as soon as it broke through that pennant, I think I shorted 3,500 shares right here. I didn't get the best fill because I was shorting so many shares, so I kind of got filled on the way down. And then as soon as we kind of popped down a little bit onto this green candle, I covered up majority of my shares to lock in most of the money. And then I think I covered up my last little bit of shares here down on this green push. That trade netted me about, so I want to say like 700 bucks. So it was kind of more of a scalp trade to begin with. And then I let about 1,000 shares ride out on that trade. So then that one netted me about 1,000 bucks or so. On to the next one. We'll talk about MU. MU was a good learning. This will be a good learning experience for some of you guys watching this video. So MU, what did I make on it? I think I made like 500 bucks today on this. So $323 on MU today. So I actually had 2 trades on MU. One was a red trade and then the other was green. So what had happened was we were watching MU drop off the face of the earth. You know, I really thought it was going to go long today with the whole earnings thing, but who knows? Anyways, we were watching MU drop, right? So I was watching it, and what we ended up doing was taking it long right here. We took it long on this green candle. Well, actually, what happened was I got filled late on this one. So I actually got filled like right at the top of this green candle. So it was a bad entry on my part. So it pops up, I'm green, and then you can see this big red candle comes in and just slaps me right down. At this point, I was considering selling, but then I hung on to it. I'm like, you know what? I'll let it ride out until it breaks below, you know, these previous low candles. Because if it doesn't break below them, then I know it runs a good chance of squeezing back up, right? So let me zoom in a little bit on this chart. So in this portion of the stock, right, we got long right about here. Stock pops up, comes down, and then we're like holding it and it's going back up. At this point we were green and then it went red and then we sold on this red candle. Why did we sell on that red candle rather than wait for it to try and go back up? Well, by the time this red candle came around, I realized that we were starting to trade into a wedge pattern. So I knew that my thesis was no longer correct. And if I were going to hold on to the stock any longer, I was pretty much just, you know, banking on hopes and dreams at that point. And as a trader, you never want to bank on hopes and dreams. If your thesis is wrong, or if you figure out you're wrong about the trade you made, it's always best to get out immediately, or once you've figured out it's no longer working the way you would have anticipated, you might as well just get out, right? Because put it this way, if I didn't get out of my long position, look what happened. Boom. Exactly. That's why you always cut losses and don't hope and pray. So let me walk you through exactly what happened. All right. I'm going to draw some trend lines here. So MU channeled like this. It's a little off, but you'll get the point. And it also channeled up kind of like that. All right. So before this pattern occurred, we were just double bottoming. So that's why we had taken the entry. That's why we went long here on the double bottom. Well, we popped up, got slammed back down, and then we popped up again. Once we popped up again and failed and came red, that's when I had realized, ready? Let me draw it a little bit differently, okay? So once we entered like right there, and then it came down, and then it bounced up, and it rejected on this candle, and then we went red, that's when I sold for a loss, because at this point, I realized that we were trading into like a little bit of a bearish pennant or a wedge pattern. And if you're trading into a wedge pattern, the wedge pattern is usually a 50-50 chance at either going bullish or going bearish. So by having money in there, you're basically putting it up for a 50-50 chance. Not a good idea. I wouldn't want to put my money on a 50-50 bet. It's really not that great. That's why I don't play blackjack for the most part. All right, so with that being said, I cut my losses on this red candle here for a small loss of about 200 bucks. I said, all right, no big deal. At this point, I'm already up like $5,000 on the day probably. So I'm like, no big deal, $200 loss. I said, let's watch it. It's getting squeezed into this wedge. So whatever way it breaks out, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play it that way. So once I realized it was in the wedge, I stopped trading it and I just waited for it to break down or break up. And sure enough, it started breaking down. So once it broke down, I shorted 2,000 shares and covered up right at the bottom of this red candle. I think it was like a $700 win, or it was like a $500 or $600 win because I was negative 200 on it originally. And then once I shorted it with those 2,000 shares on the breakdown of this wedge pattern and covered up at the bottom of the first big red candle on that drop, it had given me back all the money I'd lost and 300 bucks profit. So I made about a $500 trade altogether on MU. So what's the takeaway here is if you ever realize that you're trading into a wedge pattern, do not trade in between it. Just wait for it to pick a direction, either breaking down or breaking up. Ready? So a lot of times with wedge patterns, you're going to see them go like this until they eventually break out of the wedge pattern, either up or down. And your best bet is just to wait until they break that wedge pattern and take the trade in that direction. All right, so that was MU. What other tickers we traded at MU? So we covered MU. Oh, HRTX. Let's go to HRTX. HRTX was my first trade of the day that really set the tone for the day. This gave me a $2,400 win. I'll show you right here. That's not it. Right there, as you can see, circled, $2,400 win. Only traded it once. So as you can see here, it was a big gap up today. So it was gapping up. There was some news, yada, yada, yada. At the end of the day, not the end of the day, but borderline, all I did was short the stock today. So I shorted it 2,000 shares basically right at the open. So I'd watched it all pre-market, right? I'm looking at it pre-market. It's up big. You know, it might continue out of the gates, but it's more likely than not going to come down. It's more likely that it would come down initially because it was up so much that I know for a fact there's going to be people that are going to try and take profits on it. And then there's also going to be people like myself that are going to try and short it, which also adds to the selling pressure. So the probability of it going lower was much greater than it going higher. So I thought I would short it. So not to mention, initially, look at this open, right? So it opens, we have one strong green candle with a lot of volume. And then the next candle opens up red. At this point, once this candle opened up red, it went green for a second or two. It went green and then it failed. And at this point, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to short it. So I shorted 2,000 shares. There was lighter volume ready. So I could kind of anticipate that, you know, we had nowhere near as much volume as the first candle. And I'm like, you know what? It's red. Chances are we're going to sell off. So I shorted 2,000. Oh, let me take those off. It looks ugly. So I short 2,000 shares here on this red candle. And then where this green candle is, I ended up covering up those 2,000 shares for a $2,400 profit. So short 2,000, I held through a couple of these candles. It got a little scary there for a second. I was kind of hovering in between like up 300, down 200, up 300, down 200. Like borderline, basically, if this thing squeezed, I'd be down $1,000. So it was a little nerve-wracking there for a second, holding 2,000 shares short. But one takeaway here is you could consistently see that these candles were providing upper wicks. So that means every time they pop off, they sell up, pop up, sell off. So I knew that, you know, considering all these candles were creating higher wicks, the likelihood of us coming down soon was pretty high. So I took the 2,000 shares short and covered up all 2,000 shares here at the very bottom of that candle as it approached this 100 moving average. At that point, I was up 2,400 bucks. I wasn't going to get any greedier and try and make more money. I figured that was good enough to start off my day. So I took the $2,400 win and I moved on. All right, so on to the next one. I traded GEVO like once, I want to say, or actually say I traded it like 2 times. Really not that good. It was okay. So GEVO was crashing like in the morning. It was going down, 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 down. So, you know, I'm like, well, there's a lot of people shorting it. It could run the risk of a strong squeeze. So I hopped in it twice, actually. And actually, I traded it 3 times and only made 487 bucks. It was kind of a joke, to be honest. Should have made way more than that, but it's okay. So first trade was like down here on this green candle. I entered. It popped up to this 9 moving average. And at that point, ready? So let me step back here and zoom in. So my first trade was down here. Stock's going down, 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 down. I know a lot of people are shorting it. At some point, it's got to bounce a little bit or have some type of green move. So what I ended up doing was I took a long trade here on this green candle, figuring it was probably at the bottom. And sure enough, it was. I think I entered 4,000 shares. I took 4,000 shares long, anticipating a big squeeze. Next thing you know, it pops green. It runs right up to the 9 moving average. I'm up $1,000. I see some sellers coming in. So I'm like, you know what, I'll get out. I go to sell. By the time I sell all my 4,000 shares with slippage included, I only had like a $200 win. So I went from being up 1,000, selling 4,000 shares, and only making like 200 bucks or something. Maybe it was like 300, but it was measly. It was pointless, almost a pointless trade. So that's kind of the downside when you get into some of these penny stocks and you're trading heavy shares. A lot of times you can get some pretty bad slippage, and that's what happened. I had slippage on that. I was up 1,000. By the time I sold, I was only up like 200 bucks. So anywho, there was one trade. The next one, I want to say I did it again, right? After it popped up, came down. So right after it popped up here, came down, you can kind of see it created like a little bit of a higher low. So then I think I missed this big candle, unfortunately. So then I hopped in long on the break over the 9 moving average with another 4,000 shares, anticipating a big push. And then we really didn't get much. It popped up a little bit, and I think it fiddled around. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to risk it. 4,000 shares is not moving the way I need. I ended up popping out. I think I lost money. I think I lost like 10 or 15 bucks on that with slippage. Basically pointless. Then one more trade here on GEVO was not there, but right here. I think I hopped in. This is the next trade. This is why I'm up like 200, 400 bucks. Because I hopped in long with 2,000 shares over the break of these previous candles. It was just trending up, took a 2,000 share position. It was popping. I just sold my 2,000 shares as soon as it popped up for like a $200 winner, put me up $487 in total on GEVO today. So not really great trading on GEVO, but it is what it is. So finishing out the day, 487 on GEVO. Now, one of the stocks that did make me a good chunk of change today was not that, but AVLR. So let's go over to AVLR. Ideally, what happened with AVLR is I think there was some news on it, and all of a sudden it was just flying up. I got an alert on my scanners. So our scanners were going off to look at AVLR. So I'm like, okay, I'll take a look at it. At this point, when I first noticed it, it was popping down like this. And basically, I just played a scalp play on this green candle, understanding that the amount of people shorting it were probably going to squeeze on this candle. So I took it long there with I think like 2,000 shares. It popped up instantly up $1,000, scalped it for a $1,000 win. And then my next trade was on it right here off this 9 moving average, where I hopped in with another 2,000 shares. Or no, sorry, I traded it two more times. I played the trend line break here. It pops up with 2,000 shares. I was up $1,800. This candle slams down, and then I end up losing like a couple $100. I'm like, dang it. And then I re-entered here on this 9 moving average pullback for this green candle. 2,000 shares pops up. That one I made $2,000, and then with all the losses in there. Anyways, I ended up $1,347. So kind of some erratic trading there, but it all worked out very well for midday. That's why I'm finishing my day up $8,000. So I'm debating whether or not to trade in Power Hour. I might just take my 8 grand day and be happy. So there were some few smaller little trades in there that aren't even worth really mentioning. But other than that, that wraps up my trade recaps for today. So I hope this video kind of helped you see some of my trades and how I make the money and kind of the patterns that I'm looking for and the reasons why I take the trade. But that's all I have for you guys. And again, if you always want to join into our private group and join us trading live, that's myself included and 2 other very experienced traders. We're always on live every single day for market open and pre-market to help everybody select the stocks you should be trading for the day. So again, to do that, it's the first link in the description below. Other than that, I will see you guys all in the morning for another pre-market watch list. Okay, take care.